What if tonight were more than another night of sleep? What if these quiet hours, when the noise of the world begins to disappear and your conscious mind finally loosens its grip, could become hours of spiritual renewal, hours in which you deliberately turn away from fear, limitation, and anxious thoughts about money, and begin planting a new consciousness of supply, peace, worthiness, and abundance? Tonight, you are not here merely to rest your body. You are here to rest from an old way of thinking. You are here to lay down the burden of believing that money must always be difficult, that prosperity belongs to someone else, that opportunity has passed you by, or that your present circumstances have the authority to determine your future. They do not. Your present circumstances are conditions. They are not commandments. They are a chapter. They are not the whole story. And tonight, as you become quieter, softer, and more receptive, you are going to begin changing the inner conversation from which your outer choices, expectations, and actions arise. This is the essential spiritual idea behind the prosperity teachings associated with Florence Scovel Shinn. The inner word matters. What you habitually accept, expect, speak, imagine, and emotionally rehearse becomes deeply influential in the way you move through life. A frightened consciousness sees closed doors. A peaceful consciousness begins noticing openings. A consciousness trained in lack repeatedly asks, "What if there is not enough?" A consciousness trained in faith asks, "What right step is being shown to me now?" And those two questions can lead a person into two very different lives. So tonight, instead of carrying financial worry into sleep, you are going to practice carrying a different message inward. A message of provision, a message of order, a message of possibility, a message that says, "I am guided by divine intelligence. I am open to right supply. I release the habit of expecting lack. I welcome wise ideas, right opportunities, right people, and right action. Divine order now governs my financial life." You do not have to force these words. You do not even have to feel that you believe every sentence perfectly tonight. You are simply allowing another possibility to enter. That is enough for the beginning. And this beginning matters. For many years, perhaps for most of your life, you may have unconsciously repeated certain sentences about money. Money is hard to make. There is never enough. I always fall behind. Something always goes wrong. People like me never become wealthy. I cannot afford it. I am bad with money. I have to exhaust myself just to survive. Perhaps nobody deliberately taught you to make these statements. Perhaps you absorbed them from conversations around the dinner table, from anxious parents, from difficult experiences, from cultural expectations, from religious misunderstandings, from disappointment, or simply from years of watching circumstances that seem to confirm them. But repeated words become familiar. Familiar thoughts begin feeling true, and what feels deeply true influences what you expect, what you notice, what you attempt, what you avoid, what you tolerate, and how courageously you respond when opportunity arrives. This is why the spoken word is so important. Your word is not merely noise. Your word directs attention. Your word reinforces identity. Your word carries emotional meaning. Your word tells your inner mind what story you have chosen to inhabit. So before we go deeper tonight, make one simple decision. For the next 21 nights, treat the moments before sleep with greater care. Not superstition, not fear, not pressure. Care. Do not make your final mental meal of the day a feast of unpaid bills. Imagine disasters, resentments, comparisons, and financial shame. Feed your inner life something better. For 21 nights, practice going to sleep with words of faith rather than words of defeat. You may return to this meditation. You may use the affirmations that resonate most deeply with you. You may create a shorter ritual of your own. What matters is the consistency of the inner direction. And if you wish to make that commitment tangible, write this declaration in the comments. I commit to 21 nights of wealth consciousness beginning tonight. Let it be more than a sentence typed beneath a video. Let it become your agreement with yourself. For the next 21 nights, I will not deliberately plant fear before sleep. For the next 21 nights, I will give faith a voice. For the next 21 nights, I will practice expecting guidance. For the next 21 nights, I will stop worshiping present appearances as though they were permanent. For the next 21 nights, I will learn to speak of my life in a new way. And remember, you do not need to remain awake through every word tonight. This is a sleep meditation. Your work is not to strain. Your work is not to memorize. Your work is to become peaceful. Allow the words to accompany you towards sleep. If you drift away from the narration, let yourself drift. If you awaken later and hear another passage, simply receive it gently. There is nothing to accomplish through tension. Transformation does not always arrive through force. Very often, the most important inner shifts begin when striving ends. So become comfortable now. Let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders release. Let the muscles around your eyes become loose. Let the day be finished. Whatever was not solved today does not need to be solved in this moment. You are permitted to rest. You are permitted to stop calculating. You are permitted to stop rehearsing every financial problem. You are permitted to entrust what you cannot presently see to a wisdom greater than your anxious mind. The mind often says, I must know how. Faith says, I will be shown the next right step. The mind says, I must solve the whole future tonight. Faith says, divine intelligence knows the complete pattern. I only need today's guidance. The mind says, nothing is changing. Faith says, not everything that is growing is visible yet. That is the consciousness we begin cultivating tonight. Not fantasy, not denial, not financial irresponsibility. A calmer and more creative inner position from which better choices become possible. Many people attempt to change their lives while spending every waking hour arguing internally with themselves. They say, I am prosperous, and immediately think, no, I am not. Look at my account. They say, there is abundant opportunity, and immediately answer, then why have I struggled for so long? They visualize success and then spend the next hour mentally presenting evidence for failure. The problem is not that affirmations are useless. The problem is that contradictory inner speech often receives far more repetition. One declaration of abundance cannot easily outweigh 12 hours of fear if fear remains the dominant language. So tonight is about saturation, gentle saturation, faith repeated without strain, peace repeated without argument, a new word spoken so consistently that eventually the old sentence no longer feels like your identity. Think of rain falling upon dry earth. One drop does not transform the ground, but continued rain penetrates. It softens. It reaches places that have been hard for a long time. Your repeated spiritual word can work the same way. I am guided. I am provided for. Right opportunities are revealed. I am willing to receive. I am willing to act wisely. I am willing to prosper. I release fear. I welcome divine order. Let these ideas fall upon the inner soil tonight. You do not have to dig at the soil every 5 minutes to see whether something is happening. Plant, water, rest, trust. This is why a 21-night commitment can be so useful, not because the number itself carries magical power, and not because missing a night condemns you to failure, but because sustained repetition gives a new mental and spiritual pattern time to become familiar. Consistency changes what feels natural. What feels natural influences what you do automatically. And your automatic responses shape enormous portions of your practical life. Perhaps tonight, your first change will not be money arriving. Perhaps the first change will be peace. Do not underestimate that. A peaceful mind can see what a panicked mind overlooks. Perhaps tomorrow you remember someone you should contact. Perhaps an idea comes to you concerning work. Perhaps you finally feel strong enough to negotiate. Perhaps you notice an unnecessary expense without shame. Perhaps you recognize a skill you have undervalued. Perhaps you follow an intuitive nudge toward a conversation, application, proposal, service, product, or creative project. Perhaps nothing outward happens tomorrow at all, but you notice that you are less afraid. That, too, is movement. Inner change often whispers before outer change makes noise. Do not despise the whisper. You are learning to notice. You are learning to listen. You are learning to replace financial panic with spiritual poise. And from spiritual poise comes clearer action. Tonight, before you drift more deeply, repeat inwardly 3 times. I am blessed. I am guided. I am open to receive abundant good in right and perfect ways. Again, I am blessed. I am guided. I am open to receive abundant good in right and perfect ways. And once more, I am blessed. I am guided. I am open to receive abundant good in right and perfect ways. Now, release the words. Do not force them. Let them settle. There is a great difference between desperately demanding money and quietly knowing that your life contains more possibilities than fear has allowed you to see. Desperation contracts. Faith opens. And tonight you are opening. Opening to guidance. Opening to ideas. Opening to right relationships. Opening to appropriate compensation. Opening to the possibility that your history does not have to repeat itself forever. Opening to the spiritual truth that life contains renewal. Opening to an order larger than your present confusion. As you rest, begin allowing one sentence to become deeply familiar. The way is being made clear before me. You do not need to know the whole way. Just let the way become clear one step at a time. The way is being made clear before me. The right idea can find me. The right opportunity can become visible. The right action can become obvious. The right people can connect. The right timing can unfold. The right resources can be recognized. I do not force. I listen. I do not panic. I prepare. I do not curse tomorrow with today's fear. I speak a better word. Tonight marks a change in the way you relate to prosperity, and that change begins within. Now let us go deeper into the foundation beneath everything else. Prosperity is not only an amount, it is a consciousness. A person can possess a large sum of money and still live inwardly terrified of loss. Another person may be passing through a financially difficult season and yet possess an extraordinary inner certainty that provision, ideas, help, and opportunities will continue appearing. Which one is wealthy in consciousness? This distinction is essential. If wealth were only a number, every person who accumulated money would experience peace. But they do not. If poverty were only a number, every person temporarily lacking money would experience complete hopelessness. But they do not. There is an inner relationship with supply that exists independently of the current figure on a bank statement. And that inner relationship influences everything that follows. It affects whether you tighten or expand, whether you ask or remain silent, whether you expect rejection or possibility, whether you value your work, whether you recognize help, whether you receive generously or apologize for receiving, whether you cling to what you have in terror or manage it wisely, whether you act from intuition or panic. This is why your present financial condition should be examined without shame. Do not look at your finances and say, "This proves I am a failure." Look and ask, what has been governing my relationship with money? Fear? Avoidance? Resentment? Confusion? Undervaluing yourself? Impulse? The belief that money is somehow unspiritual? The belief that good people must struggle? The belief that wealth belongs to another kind of person? The belief that your family has never had much, therefore, neither will you? The belief that earning more would separate you from people you love? The belief that wanting financial freedom makes you selfish? These beliefs may not be spoken consciously. Some of them are very quiet. They appear as discomfort when you name a higher price. They appear as guilt when you receive. They appear as procrastination when an opportunity comes. They appear as constant undercharging. They appear as giving everything away and refusing to receive in return. They appear as compulsive spending whenever money accumulates. They appear as fear of looking honestly at your numbers. They appear as assuming the worst before anything has happened. The outer habit often reveals an inner agreement. Tonight, we begin changing the agreement. Not by condemning the person you were. You learned what you learned. You absorbed what surrounded you. You survived the conditions you were given. But awareness gives you a new choice. From this night forward, you may begin saying, I release inherited fear concerning money. I release shame concerning prosperity. I release the belief that suffering proves goodness. I release the belief that wealth makes a person less spiritual. I release the belief that I must repeat the financial story of my family. I choose a new relationship with supply. I welcome money as a useful servant of good. I welcome wise stewardship. I welcome ethical prosperity. I welcome abundant resources that enable right living, freedom, generosity, and service. Notice how different that feels from begging. You are not saying, please rescue me because I am powerless. You are saying, I am willing to cooperate with divine order. That is spiritual maturity. There is a type of prosperity consciousness that does not sit passively waiting for coins to fall from heaven. It listens. It responds. It prepares. It speaks courageously. It takes right action when right action is indicated. It trusts that supply may come through many channels and therefore refuses to dictate that good must arrive through one particular door. This is crucial. Fear usually chooses one door and says, if this does not work, I am finished. Faith says, this is one channel. Divine supply is not limited to one channel. A job can be a channel. A business can be a channel. A client can be a channel. A creative idea can be a channel. A repayment can be a channel. A partnership can be a channel. A skill can become a channel. A conversation can open a channel. A solution that has not yet occurred to you can become a channel. The source is not the channel. This distinction brings freedom. If one door closes, supply itself has not vanished. If one person says no, opportunity itself has not disappeared. If one plan fails, divine intelligence has not failed. You may be redirected. You may be prepared for something more fitting. You may be asked to learn. You may be shown a better path. So tonight, stop making an idol of one particular means. Sigh. My good is not limited to one person, one job, one client, one company, one circumstance, or one route. Divine intelligence has many channels, and I am guided to the right ones. Feel the spaciousness of that statement. Scarcity says there is only one chance. Abundance remembers there are possibilities you have not yet imagined. Now consider your childhood. Perhaps you heard adults say, we cannot afford that. Perhaps every bill produced tension. Perhaps money caused arguments. Perhaps asking for anything made you feel guilty. Perhaps wealth was spoken of with suspicion. Perhaps people with money were described as selfish, dishonest, or corrupt. Perhaps you learned to associate prosperity with danger. A child does not evaluate these statements philosophically. A child receives atmosphere, tone, emotion, repetition, and years later, that emotional atmosphere may still appear whenever money enters the room. You may consciously desire wealth while unconsciously bracing against it. This is why inner preparation matters. You are not only asking life to give you more, you are becoming safe enough inwardly to receive more. You are becoming wise enough to keep more. You are becoming peaceful enough to manage more. You are becoming generous enough to circulate more. You are becoming discerning enough to use more well. This is the law of preparation in practical form. If you say you want abundance, prepare a place for abundance in consciousness. Prepare your thoughts. Prepare your language. Prepare your habits. Prepare your emotional capacity. Prepare your willingness to act responsibly. Prepare your willingness to say yes when right opportunity appears. A farmer does not merely pray for harvest. The field is prepared. A merchant does not merely desire customers. The shop is prepared. A host expecting a beloved guest does not leave the room neglected and say, "I will prepare once they arrive." Preparation is evidence of expectation. This principle appears again and again in spiritual teaching. If you truly expect good, you begin making room for good. Perhaps the first preparation you need is very simple. Organize your finances. Open the letters you have avoided. Look at the numbers without panic. Create order where there has been confusion. Cancel what is no longer useful. Pay what can responsibly be paid. Ask for advice where advice is needed. Update your resume. Finish the proposal. Clean the workspace. Make the call. Learn the skill. Send the application. Raise the standard of your work. Ask to be compensated fairly. Receive what is owed without guilt. Faith is not an excuse to avoid practical wisdom. Spiritual consciousness and right action are partners. One illuminates the other. Sai. Divine intelligence shows me what to do, and I act upon right guidance. That sentence is powerful because it contains both receptivity and responsibility. You are guided, and you act. You listen, and you move. You trust, and you prepare. Suppose a person repeatedly declares, "I am ready for wealth," but whenever money arrives, they immediately spend it from nervous excitement. That person may desire wealth, but part of their consciousness is not yet comfortable holding it. Suppose someone says, "I want greater income," yet turns down every opportunity that would require visibility because being seen feels unsafe. They may want abundance, but another part of them is protecting an old identity. Suppose someone says, "I want a thriving business," while refusing to communicate their offer clearly because they fear judgment. The obstacle may not be the market alone. There may be an inner conflict asking to be healed. This is why preparation is compassionate. Instead of asking, "Why does nothing work for me?" ask, "What would need to become natural within me for greater prosperity to feel safe, responsible, and sustainable?" Perhaps you need to become comfortable receiving. Perhaps you need to become comfortable charging. Perhaps you need to become comfortable saving. Perhaps you need to become comfortable having more than your parents had. Perhaps you need to become comfortable succeeding without apologizing. Perhaps you need to become comfortable saying no. Perhaps you need to become comfortable being visible. Perhaps you need to become comfortable allowing life to be easier. Whatever appears, do not fight it tonight. Simply recognize it. Awareness is already loosening the old pattern. Then speak. I am prepared for increasing good. I am safe, receiving increasing good. I manage increasing good wisely. I use prosperity constructively. I allow wealth and spiritual integrity to exist together in my life. I bless money as a useful instrument. I do not worship money, and I do not fear money. I place money in its right position. A servant of life, freedom, generosity, responsibility, beauty, and good. Let these ideas become familiar. There is no holiness in needless financial chaos. There is no virtue in fear. There is no spiritual merit in refusing legitimate good. Prosperity used wisely can feed families, educate children, support healing, create employment, fund beautiful work, support charitable causes, give people time, relieve unnecessary stress, and allow generosity to express itself more freely. Money itself does not determine character. It reveals and amplifies the consciousness through which it is used. So, if an old belief says, "Wealth will make me selfish," answer gently, "Prosperity allows the good already within me to express through greater resources." If an old belief says, "I do not deserve more," answer, "Worthiness is not something I purchase. I am willing to receive right compensation and right supply." If an old belief says, "People will reject me if I succeed," answer, "My prosperity does not diminish anyone. I can love others without limiting myself." If an old belief says, "Money always disappears," answer, "I am becoming a wise and peaceful steward of money. I receive, retain, direct, and multiply resources with intelligence." This is preparation. Tonight, your inner house is being put in order, not through violence, not through self-criticism, through a better word, through understanding, through repeated permission to become someone new. And as you become drowsier, imagine an inner room being cleared. Old boxes labeled fear, old boxes labeled shame, old boxes labeled not enough, old boxes labeled people like me cannot prosper, old boxes labeled money creates trouble, old boxes labeled I must struggle. See them leaving one by one, not because you are fighting them, because you no longer need them. Now imagine new space, clean, open, quiet, prepared, and place within that space new words: divine order, wise stewardship, right supply, faith, receptivity, courage, generosity, peace, prosperity. Now silently say, I am making room for good. Again, I am making room for good. And again, I am making room for good. Rest in that. There is another truth that must now become clear. Your subconscious pattern does not only influence how much you receive, it influences how you see yourself. And the image you hold of yourself may be one of the strongest invisible limits in your financial life. You can call this your inner image. Every person carries one. It is the quiet picture beneath conscious thought that says, this is the kind of person I am. This is what happens to people like me. This is how much I am capable of. This is how much I am allowed to have. This is what I can expect. This is where I belong. That inner image acts almost like a thermostat. A thermostat does not argue with the weather outside. It continually works to bring the room back toward the setting that has been chosen. Your self-concept often behaves similarly. If your inner image says, I am someone who always struggles, then periods of improvement can feel strangely uncomfortable. If your inner image says, I never keep money, you may unconsciously behave in ways that restore that familiar condition. If your inner image says, I am a low earner, opportunities beyond that identity may feel unrealistic, intimidating, or not for me. If your inner image says, I am unlucky, you may notice every setback while overlooking openings that contradict your story. The good news is that an inner image is learned. What is learned can be revised. This is one of the most hopeful truths in all inner work. You are not sentenced forever to an identity created by old experiences. The fact that you have lived one way does not mean you must continue seeing yourself that way. Tonight, begin seeing yourself differently, not as a fantasy character, not as someone pretending to possess what you do not possess. See yourself as a person who is becoming capable of greater stewardship, greater confidence, greater contribution, and greater prosperity. See yourself as calm with money. See yourself opening your financial accounts without fear. See yourself paying obligations with gratitude rather than resentment. See yourself receiving income and saying, thank you. See yourself saving with peace. See yourself investing wisely. See yourself giving joyfully. See yourself saying no to financial decisions that do not serve you. See yourself asking intelligent questions. See yourself learning. See yourself negotiating. See yourself doing excellent work and receiving excellent compensation. See yourself walking into rooms where you once felt you did not belong and knowing quietly, there is a place for me here. See yourself living beautifully, not to impress others, but because beauty and order feel natural. See yourself having enough time, enough space, enough rest, enough resources to make decisions without constant panic. Do not only visualize money, visualize the person who can live wisely with money. This is much more powerful. If you imagine a large bank balance while continuing to see yourself as frightened, disorganized, undeserving, and powerless, the image is divided. Instead, build a complete inner identity. I am a wise receiver. I am a responsible steward. I am a creative contributor. I recognize opportunities. I trust intuition and verify wisely. I value my work. I welcome right compensation. I live in divine order. I prosper in ways that bless me and others. This is the wealthy self you are cultivating. And notice, none of these qualities require you to wait until you are rich. You can begin embodying them now. This is where the principle often called acting as if becomes practical. Acting as if does not mean spending money you do not have. It does not mean pretending debt does not exist. It does not mean reckless behavior disguised as faith. It means refusing to let scarcity determine your inner posture. How does a person with healthy prosperity consciousness handle a bill? Calmly. How do they respond to an opportunity? With discernment rather than automatic fear. How do they speak about themselves? With dignity. How do they treat other people's success? Without resentment. How do they treat money? With respect, not worship. How do they respond when something goes wrong? They solve the problem without turning the event into a prophecy of lifelong disaster. You can begin doing these things today. Imagine a woman living in very limited circumstances. Her clothes may be old. Her home may be modest. Her income may be small. But one day she decides she will no longer allow poverty to dictate her dignity. She begins caring for what she owns. She keeps herself neat. She organizes her home. She speaks without constantly announcing lack. She stops apologizing for existing. She gives sincere compliments. She learns. She pays attention. She walks with a quieter confidence. She does not spend irresponsibly to look wealthy. She changes the consciousness with which she meets life. And because she changes, people begin meeting her differently. She notices opportunities she once dismissed. She speaks when she once remained silent. She presents herself differently. She becomes available to a different set of experiences. This is the spiritual and practical power of a changed inner image. The world often reflects back the identity we repeatedly embody. Tonight, ask yourself, who have I been rehearsing? Have I rehearsed the abandoned person? The unlucky person? The underpaid person? The overlooked person? The person for whom everything is difficult? The person who always says, "That is too expensive for someone like me"? The person who expects to lose? The person who waits for disaster every time something good happens? No judgment. Simply see it. Then choose again. Who do you wish to rehearse now? Perhaps the guided person, the peaceful person, the prosperous person, the person who recognizes opportunity, the person who expects to learn rather than fail, the person whose word carries faith, the person whose finances increasingly reflect order, the person who knows that one setback cannot cancel divine possibility. Tonight, become acquainted with that version of yourself. See their face. Notice how relaxed it is. Notice how they breathe. Notice how they speak. Notice the absence of frantic energy. Notice that they do not need to prove anything. True prosperity has dignity. It is quiet. It does not scream. It does not desperately advertise itself. It knows. Let yourself feel that knowing. Imagine waking tomorrow morning as this version of you. Before reaching for your phone, you remember, I am guided today. You rise without immediately calculating everything that might go wrong. You ask, what good may I participate in today? What right action is mine today? What opportunity might I notice today? What value can I create today? What intuition deserves my attention? Now imagine encountering a problem. Your former self may have said, here we go again. Nothing ever works. Your new self says, this is a condition requiring wisdom. It is not a prophecy. Feel the power of that. A condition requiring wisdom, not a prophecy. You receive an unexpected expense. The old voice says, I am ruined. The new voice says, this will be handled. I remain open to wise solutions and right supply. Someone rejects your proposal. The old voice says, nobody wants what I offer. The new voice says, that channel was not mine. I improve what needs improving and remain open to the right channel. A plan changes. The old voice says, everything is falling apart. The new voice says, divine order may be redirecting what I cannot yet understand. This is not naivete. This is disciplined interpretation. And interpretation matters because the meaning you assign to events influences what you do next. A setback interpreted as doom produces withdrawal. A setback interpreted as information produces adjustment. A closed door interpreted as personal worthlessness produces shame. A closed door interpreted as redirection preserves movement. Your inner word shapes your response. So cultivate words that strengthen right action. Tonight, as you are becoming softer and sleepier, begin repeating, I see myself differently now. I see myself as guided. I see myself as capable. I see myself as worthy of right compensation. I see myself as peaceful with money. I see myself as a wise steward of abundance. I see myself as someone whose life is increasingly governed by divine order. I see myself prosperous in mind, spirit, relationships, work, and resources. Allow those sentences to become pictures. Do not strain. Perhaps you see yourself opening an email containing an opportunity. Perhaps you see a client thanking you. Perhaps you see your savings growing. Perhaps you see yourself paying off something that once frightened you. Perhaps you see yourself working fewer frantic hours because your work is better organized and better compensated. Perhaps you see yourself helping someone you love. Perhaps you see a home filled with peace. Perhaps you see yourself traveling. Perhaps you see yourself creating meaningful work. Perhaps you simply see yourself sleeping without fear about tomorrow. That image alone is wealth. Peace is wealth. Choice is wealth. Time is wealth. Health is wealth. Meaningful work is wealth. Love is wealth. Useful ideas are wealth. Supportive relationships are wealth. Financial abundance is one expression within a much larger kingdom of prosperity. You are not here to worship money. You are here to remove needless conflict with it and allow it to occupy its proper place in a well-ordered life. Now consider the widow described in the original teaching, a woman carrying 2 children, financial uncertainty, fear about housing, no clear career direction, and nights repeatedly disturbed by anxiety. Whether we receive such stories literally or as teaching illustrations, the spiritual lesson is powerful. Her great difficulty was not simply that she lacked resources. Her mind had become trapped in the question, how can I feel any sense of abundance when everything around me looks frightening? That is the question many people ask. How can I feel peaceful while debt exists? How can I speak faith while my income is uncertain? How can I expect good when previous attempts failed? The answer is not to deny the facts. The answer is to refuse to let facts become your only source of consciousness. You may acknowledge, yes, this bill exists, and still say, and I am guided toward a solution. You may acknowledge, yes, my income is presently limited, and still say, and my capacity, creativity, and channels of supply are capable of expansion. You may acknowledge, yes, I am afraid, and still say, and fear does not get the final word. That is genuine spiritual courage. The woman in the teaching began using the moments before sleep differently. Instead of rehearsing homelessness, disaster, and helplessness, she practiced another inner message. My children and I are cared for. Right provision is appearing. I am open to receive. I am guided to the right work. I do not need to know every channel in advance. At first, such words may feel impossible, but repetition can slowly change the emotional atmosphere. And when the emotional atmosphere changes, new behavior becomes possible. Fear becomes quieter. Ideas begin surfacing. Conversations feel possible. Help can be received without humiliation. Small openings can be recognized. This is how change often begins. Not with a thunderbolt, with a little more peace than yesterday, then a little more clarity, then one action, then another, then a contact, then a solution, then a new pattern. Do not insist that transformation arrive dramatically. Allow it to arrive intelligently. Sometimes divine order looks like a miracle. Sometimes divine order looks like a spreadsheet. Sometimes it looks like an introduction. Sometimes it looks like courage. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like finally asking for help. Sometimes it looks like a new idea at 3 in the afternoon. Sometimes it looks like an opportunity that would have frightened the old you. Remain receptive to all forms of right good. Your job is not to dictate the costume in which abundance must arrive. Your job is to become receptive enough to recognize it. So tonight say, I welcome my good in right and perfect ways. I release the demand that it arrive through one specific route. I trust divine intelligence to reveal channels beyond my present imagination. I recognize opportunities when they appear. I take inspired and practical action. I receive without shame. I give without fear. I manage with wisdom. I rest in divine order. Now relax more deeply. Your new inner image is being rehearsed. Your old identity does not need to be attacked. It simply needs less repetition. Stop feeding it. Stop saying, I always struggle. Stop saying, nothing works for me. Stop saying, I am cursed with money. Stop saying, I will never get ahead. These are not harmless descriptions. They are identity statements. Replace them, not with exaggerated boasting, with a higher, steadier word. My financial life is improving. I am learning prosperity. I am becoming more skillful with money. I am increasingly open to right supply. I am guided toward increasing value and compensation. I am creating order. I am available for new possibilities. I am no longer committed to struggle. Feel how believable growth language can become. You do not have to leap from I am terrified to I own everything. You can say, I am learning peace. I am learning trust. I am learning to receive. I am learning to expect good, and the doorway opens. Let that be enough tonight. Now we come to one of the deepest themes in this entire practice, the creative use of the word. Words are seeds. Not because every casual sentence immediately materializes as an event, but because repeated language directs consciousness, and consciousness influences perception, emotion, identity, expectation, and action. If you repeatedly say, I have terrible luck with money, eventually you stop hearing it as an opinion. It becomes biography, then identity, then expectation, then interpretation. An opportunity appears and you distrust it. A mistake happens and you call it proof. A success happens and you call it temporary. Your inner story edits reality until everything seems to support the sentence you have been repeating. This is why careless negative declarations can become so destructive. I always lose. I cannot handle money. I never have enough. People take advantage of me. Every time I save, something goes wrong. These things never work for someone like me. Stop speaking absolutes over temporary conditions. You may have struggled. That does not mean you are someone who struggles. You may have lost money. That does not mean money always leaves you. You may have made poor decisions. That does not make you incapable of wisdom. You may have been underpaid. That does not determine your future value. You may have experienced scarcity. That does not make scarcity your identity. Separate condition from identity. This is freedom. Sigh. That happened. It is not who I am. Again. That happened. It is not who I am. The past is history. It is not a divine decree. And now you are learning to issue a different decree. Not in anger, not as magical incantation, as disciplined spiritual language. Instead of, I never have enough. Sigh. I am learning to recognize and create increasing supply. Instead of, money always disappears. Sigh. I am becoming a wise steward. Money is increasingly handled with order. Instead of, nobody values me. Sigh. I value what I offer. Improve it continually and connect with those who value it rightly. Instead of, I am unlucky. Sigh. I am open to favorable possibilities and guided action. Instead of, I have to work myself to death. Sigh. I welcome effective, inspired, well-compensated work. Instead of, this is impossible. Sigh. I do not yet see the way. but the way can be revealed. That phrase is especially powerful. I do not yet see the way, but the way can be revealed. It leaves room, and faith needs room. There is another difference we must understand. Begging consciousness versus receptive authority. Begging consciousness says, I am separate from good. I am powerless. I hope something outside me decides to rescue me. Receptive spiritual authority says, I am connected to divine intelligence. I can listen. I can speak a right word. I can take right action. I can cooperate with good. I can refuse to make fear my master. This kind of authority is not arrogance. It is alignment. You are not ordering the entire universe to obey your personality. You are bringing your own consciousness into order. This is where a declaration becomes useful. A declaration is not an attempt to bully reality. A declaration is an attempt to stop your own inner contradiction. When you say, divine order now governs this situation, you are reminding yourself not to feed chaos. When you say, I am guided to the right action, you are directing attention toward guidance rather than panic. When you say, my good comes through right channels, you are refusing to cling fearfully to one particular outcome. When you say, I am willing to prosper, you are giving yourself permission to stop sabotaging what you consciously desire. This is powerful inner work. The original teaching contains the story of a woman convinced she was cursed financially because failure seemed to follow her repeatedly. The lesson given to her was that the most persistent curse was not an external mystical force, but the destructive language she continually used about herself, language that reinforced the identity of someone destined to lose. That lesson deserves to be heard slowly. How often have you cursed your future with your description of your past? I always, I never, nothing, everyone, impossible. These words close psychological and spiritual space. So tonight, reverse the sentence. If you have said, I am terrible with money, begin saying, I am teachable, and I am becoming wise with money. If you have said, I never get opportunities, begin saying, I am becoming more alert to opportunities and more courageous in responding to them. If you have said, prosperity is for other people, begin saying, I give myself permission to live an increasingly prosperous life. If you have said, I am always behind, begin saying, I am establishing order one decision at a time. This is not a contest to create the most dramatic affirmation. Choose words that direct your consciousness in the right direction. Words you can inhabit. Words that carry light. Words that make wise action easier. Tonight, say, I break agreement with every sentence of permanent lack. I release every identity built around financial defeat. I bless my past and release it. I call forth wisdom. I call forth courage. I call forth right opportunity. I call forth responsible prosperity. I call forth divine order. My words are filled with power and peace. The way is made clear before me. Feel the difference. You are no longer pleading. You are aligning. And the word must be followed by listening. This is important. A prosperity declaration without openness to guidance becomes empty repetition. After you speak, become quiet. Perhaps you need to send a message tomorrow. Perhaps you need to revisit an idea. Perhaps you need to stop pursuing something that drains you. Perhaps you need to ask for a raise. Perhaps you need to reduce a harmful expense. Perhaps you need to hire help. Perhaps you need to stop hiding your work. Perhaps you need to improve the work before asking more for it. Perhaps you need to forgive someone. Perhaps you need to forgive yourself. Perhaps you need to learn a practical skill. Perhaps you need to rest. Guidance can be unexpectedly ordinary. Do not reject wisdom because it does not look mystical enough. Divine intelligence may guide through intuition, but it can also guide through facts, feedback, numbers, study, conversation, and common sense. The spiritually mature person welcomes truth from every useful channel. Now let us return to the moments immediately before sleep. These moments are precious because your day is ending. The external world is becoming quiet. You are no longer required to perform. You can choose your final conscious direction. Many people unconsciously use those minutes to rehearse everything that frightened them during the day. They replay criticism. They replay bills. They replay mistakes. They replay arguments. They rehearse tomorrow's catastrophes. Then they wonder why they awaken tense. Tonight, practice something else. Let your final thoughts become a blessing over tomorrow. Sigh. While I rest, I release today. I forgive myself for what was imperfect. I release everyone who disappointed me. I release financial fear. I do not carry today's anxiety into tomorrow. I am guided by divine intelligence. My mind is open to useful ideas. My heart is open to right relationships. My work is guided toward right expression. My finances are coming under increasing divine order. I sleep in peace. I awaken receptive. Then release. No more analyzing. No more bargaining. No more trying to force a result before morning. There is a rhythm to spiritual work. Speak. Listen. Act. Release. Speak. Listen. Act. Release. Many people speak and then immediately dig up their own word with anxiety. They affirm provision and 5 minutes later mentally announce disaster. They ask for guidance and then refuse every path that does not match their preconceived answer. They declare trust and then obsessively check for evidence every hour. That is divided consciousness. Tonight you practice undivided consciousness. You speak a good word. You let it stand. You do not have to defend it every 5 minutes. You do not have to demand proof before sunrise. You rest. This leads us into the law of preparation at an even deeper level. Receiving is not only about attracting, it is also about capacity. Imagine pouring a gallon of water into a cup. The problem is not the abundance of water. The cup has limited capacity. In the same way, a person may consciously desire greater wealth while still having an inner capacity calibrated for just enough. More feels unfamiliar. More feels dangerous. More feels guilty. More creates panic. So when more arrives, the person unconsciously reduces it again. They overspend. They undercharge. They refuse opportunities. They rescue everyone around them until nothing remains. They enter unsuitable investments. They avoid learning. They hide. They procrastinate. They create emergencies. Not because they consciously want poverty, but because the familiar feels safer than the new. So tonight, we expand capacity. Sigh. It is safe for me to prosper. It is safe for me to receive. It is safe for me to retain money. It is safe for me to make wise financial decisions. It is safe for me to have more than enough. It is safe for me to succeed. It is safe for me to remain loving while prospering. It is safe for me to become more visible. It is safe for me to be compensated well for valuable work. It is safe for life to become easier. Pause on that last sentence. It is safe for life to become easier. Some people do not realize how deeply they have associated struggle with virtue. If something comes easily, they distrust it. If someone pays them well, they feel guilty. If an opportunity opens smoothly, they expect disaster. If they have free time, they create more work. Their nervous system has become familiar with struggle. So ease feels unsafe. Tonight you give yourself permission to experience another rhythm. Not laziness, not passivity. Ease, efficiency, grace, inspired action. Work that uses your gifts instead of destroying your health. Compensation that reflects value rather than exhaustion. A life in which rest is not a reward for collapse. A life in which prosperity does not require constant emergency. Sigh. I release my loyalty to struggle. I do not need suffering to prove my worth. I welcome inspired action. I welcome intelligent effort. I welcome effective work. I welcome ease where ease is right. I welcome grace. Now imagine holding prosperity, not spending it immediately, not proving anything, simply holding it calmly. Imagine receiving money and letting it remain. Imagine looking at it without excitement or fear. Imagine saying, "Welcome. I will direct you wisely. See yourself allocating it, some for needs, some for savings, some for investment, some for joy, some for generosity. Whatever structure is right for your life. The important thing is the feeling. Calm, steady, competent. Prosperity does not overwhelm you. You can hold good. You can manage good. You can allow good to remain. Now speak. I have increasing capacity for abundance. My consciousness is spacious enough for prosperity. My habits are becoming strong enough to sustain prosperity. My character is becoming wise enough to direct prosperity. I receive with gratitude. I retain with wisdom. I circulate with discernment. I give with joy. I prosper in divine order. And as you drift closer to sleep, let one final declaration settle deeply. I am prepared for the good that is prepared for me. Again, I am prepared for the good that is prepared for me. And once more, I am prepared for the good that is prepared for me. You do not chase tonight. You prepare. You do not beg. You receive. You do not curse. You bless. You do not force. You listen. You do not worship circumstances. You remember that circumstances change. The old story is losing authority. The new consciousness is becoming familiar. Rest now. There is more to unfold. Gratitude will deepen the work. Your inner image will become clearer. The feeling of wealth will become embodied. You will learn to act from abundance rather than wait for abundance. You will learn the difference between inspired action and exhausting force. You will learn to trust timing without becoming passive. You will release emotional conflict around money. You will understand giving and receiving as one circulation. And eventually, all these practices will lead back to one simple realization. True prosperity begins as an inner order before it becomes an outer condition. For now, let that truth be enough. Your mind can rest. Your body can rest. The day is finished. You are guided. You are blessed. You are learning to receive. Divine order is working in ways you do not need to force. The way is becoming clear. Sleep peacefully. Now we come to gratitude. And gratitude, rightly understood, is much more than saying thank you because something pleasant happened. Gratitude is a way of training consciousness to notice supply. Most people believe they will become grateful when life gives them more. When the income increases, then I will be grateful. When the debt disappears, then I will feel blessed. When the opportunity arrives, then I will trust. When the business grows, then I will relax. When the money appears, then I will believe abundance is real. But notice the trap. If gratitude always waits for proof, then consciousness remains centered on what is missing until the proof arrives. And what you continually center your attention upon shapes the emotional atmosphere in which you live. This is why gratitude comes first. Not because you pretend everything is perfect. Not because you deny unpaid obligations. Not because you force yourself to enjoy difficult circumstances. You practice gratitude because it teaches the mind to recognize that lack is never the whole picture. Even in an imperfect financial season, something is being supplied. Air is being supplied. Life is being supplied. Some form of shelter may be supplied. Food may have reached you today. Someone may have helped you. You may possess a skill that can become valuable. You may have an idea. You may have a body capable of action. You may have access to knowledge your grandparents could never have imagined. You may have people who love you. You may still have time to choose differently. There is always a place from which gratitude can begin. And once gratitude begins, the entire inner atmosphere changes. Suppose you go to bed thinking, I cannot believe how much I owe. There is never enough. Everything costs too much. Nothing is improving. Everyone else is ahead of me. I am tired of this. Those statements may describe real frustration, but repeated night after night they train attention toward shortage. Now suppose instead you acknowledge the same reality, but you deliberately add another dimension. Yes, I have obligations, and I am grateful I am becoming more conscious. I am grateful for every dollar that did reach me today. I am grateful for every person who supported me. I am grateful that I can learn. I am grateful that new solutions remain possible. I am grateful for what has already been supplied. I am grateful in advance for the wisdom that is coming. Nothing external has necessarily changed yet, but you have changed the consciousness from which you will meet tomorrow. This is the practical mystery of gratitude. It changes the perceiver, and when the perceiver changes, what can be perceived changes too. A mind obsessed with scarcity can walk past opportunity because it is trained to search only for evidence of scarcity. A grateful mind becomes more observant. It notices resources. It notices relationships. It notices options. It notices openings. It notices what is working instead of staring exclusively at what is broken. This does not mean gratitude magically removes every difficulty. It means gratitude gives you a different consciousness from which to address difficulty. And that difference is enormous. There was a man in the teaching who faced severe financial trouble and felt he had absolutely nothing for which to be grateful. He was close to losing his business. His home felt threatened. His mind was saturated with fear. When asked to practice gratitude, his first response was essentially, "For what? Everything is going wrong." But the instruction was simple. Begin wherever truth allows you to begin. You are alive. Begin there. You can see. Begin there. You can hear. Begin there. Someone loves you. Begin there. You have intelligence. Begin there. You still possess some ability to act. Begin there. Do not wait for the perfect object of gratitude. Begin with the reality already in your hands. So every evening, he began naming things. Not grand things, simple things. His body, a conversation, a meal, a place to sleep, a friend, a small kindness, the fact that another day had given him another chance. At first, his financial circumstances did not change, but he did. Bitterness began loosening. Despair became less absolute. His mind stopped saying, "There is no way," with quite the same conviction. And when that happened, possibilities that had been psychologically invisible became visible. A negotiation became possible. Help could be received. A creditor became more flexible. A new source of income appeared. Solutions began entering the field of his awareness. This is why gratitude is not passive. Gratitude can be deeply practical. It brings the mind out of tunnel vision. Tonight, before sleep, begin with 3 things. Only 3. 3 forms of supply you genuinely received today. Maybe someone bought you coffee. Maybe you received a paycheck. Maybe you ate dinner. Maybe you found an item you needed at a lower price. Maybe someone gave you useful information. Maybe you were able to use transportation. Maybe a client answered. Maybe you completed a piece of work. Maybe you discovered a lesson from a mistake. Choose 3, and do not merely say the words quickly. Feel them. Thank you for this meal. Thank you for this roof. Thank you for the money that did come. Thank you for this skill. Thank you for this opportunity to begin again. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the person who helped me. Thank you for the strength to continue. Let gratitude become physical. Feel your chest soften. Feel the tension release slightly. Feel the body receive the message. Not everything is missing. Something is here. Something has been given. Something is working. That realization is powerful. Now we move into the second form of gratitude. Gratitude in advance. This requires a deeper faith. You are not thanking life for a fantasy. You are cultivating appreciation for the possibility of good before you possess visible proof. You might say, "Thank you for the wisdom guiding my financial decisions. Thank you for the right opportunities moving toward me. Thank you for the increase that is developing through right channels. Thank you for my growing peace around money. Thank you for the work that fits my gifts. Thank you for the people who value what I offer. Thank you for the resources that arrive in right and useful ways. Thank you for the financial order being established in my life." Notice the difference between this and anxious demanding. You are not saying, "Where is it? Why is it not here? When will it come?" You are saying, I am willing to live in appreciation before all the evidence is visible. That state changes you. And again, when you change, tomorrow's choices change. Suppose tonight you go to sleep thinking, I am grateful for the opportunities becoming visible to me. Tomorrow morning, perhaps you notice a message you would normally ignore. Perhaps you remember someone you should contact. Perhaps you see an article about a field you had never considered. Perhaps you recognize that something you already know how to do has value. Perhaps you finally notice a pattern in your spending. Gratitude makes you receptive, and receptivity is essential to prosperity. A closed consciousness may be surrounded by good and still say, there is nothing here. An open consciousness says, show me. That is one of the finest prayers you can make. Show me the good I have not yet learned to see. Say it now. Show me the good I have not yet learned to see. Again, show me the good I have not yet learned to see. You may be astonished at what changes when you stop demanding one particular answer and become willing to see a better one. Tonight, after naming 3 blessings already present, name 3 blessings you welcome in advance. Thank you for increasing income through right channels. Thank you for increasing clarity. Thank you for increasing financial wisdom. Thank you for freedom from fear. Thank you for opportunities that benefit everyone involved. Thank you for the courage to recognize and accept my good. Thank you for the right use of every resource that reaches me. Thank you for abundance that comes with peace. And then stop. Do not immediately ask how. Do not destroy gratitude with interrogation. Let thankfulness be the final feeling. This is especially powerful before sleep, because the emotional tone with which you close your day becomes the atmosphere in which your mind rests. If you fall asleep rehearsing resentment, you carry tension towards sleep. If you fall asleep rehearsing gratitude, the entire nervous system receives another message. Enough for this moment. Safe enough for this moment. Held enough for this moment. Supplied enough for this moment. And tomorrow can bring more. There was also the story of a single mother living from paycheck to paycheck, raising 3 children with almost nothing left at the end of each month. She began a nightly discipline of naming 10 things for which she was grateful. Some nights it was difficult. Some nights gratitude came through tears. But she continued. And the first transformation was not dramatic wealth. It was better sleep, less anxiety. Then small help appeared. Food, support, reduced expenses. Later, a better work opportunity. Again, the point is not that gratitude is a vending machine into which you insert thank you statements and receive cash. The deeper point is that gratitude changed her relationship with life. She became less mentally imprisoned by lack. That opened room for clearer action, better relationships, stronger courage, and greater receptivity. And over time, those internal changes were accompanied by outward improvement. This is the pattern you are practicing. Inside first, then outside. Consciousness first, then circumstance. Tonight, whisper, I am grateful for what is. I am grateful for what is growing. I am grateful for what I am becoming. I am grateful that divine order is active even where I cannot yet see the whole picture. I am grateful for every form of supply. I am grateful for every lesson. I am grateful for every right door. I am grateful for every closed door that redirects me. I am grateful for money that comes. I am grateful for wisdom that keeps and uses it well. I am grateful for abundance in all its forms. Now breathe. Rest. Let gratitude be enough. From gratitude, we move naturally into the inner image. Because what you repeatedly appreciate, imagine, and expect gradually influences the picture you hold of yourself. And your self-image is powerful. There are people who earn more money every few years, but never feel wealthier because their inner image remains unchanged. They still see themselves as unsafe, still see themselves as one disaster away from ruin, still feel that prosperity belongs to someone else, still believe that any success is temporary. So whenever circumstances rise above the level of their inner identity, they become uncomfortable. Sometimes they unconsciously return to what feels familiar. This is why outer growth without inner growth can be difficult to sustain. Your inner picture must expand. Imagine a thermostat. If it is set at a particular temperature, the system continually works to return the room to that setting. Your inner image can behave similarly. If you see yourself as a person who earns just enough, there may be a tendency to return to just enough. If you see yourself as someone who is always financially overwhelmed, temporary order may feel strangely unnatural. If you see yourself as undeserving of success, opportunities may create guilt instead of excitement. So tonight, begin gently changing the setting. Visualize yourself not merely possessing money, but embodying prosperity. This distinction matters. Do not only see dollars, see peace, see competence, see order, see responsibility, see confidence, see generosity, see freedom, see choice. Imagine opening your bank account and remaining relaxed. Imagine seeing increasing savings. Imagine making decisions without panic. Imagine paying bills and silently blessing the money as it goes. Thank you. More circulates to me through right channels. Imagine receiving income and allowing it to remain long enough to be directed wisely. Imagine negotiating compensation confidently. Imagine completing excellent work. Imagine people appreciating the value you provide. Imagine your calendar containing meaningful work without exhausting chaos. Imagine having time to think, time to rest, time to create, time to love. That is prosperity too. Picture yourself as someone who handles good well. This is essential. Perhaps you have been visualizing receiving, but not holding. Receiving, but not managing. Receiving, but not feeling safe. Expand the picture. See yourself receiving, retaining, managing, multiplying, giving, enjoying, resting, all in balance. Sigh. I am capable of sustaining good. I am capable of managing increase. I am comfortable with prosperity. I am comfortable with responsibility. I am peaceful while receiving. I am peaceful while holding. I am peaceful while giving. I live in increasing financial order. Now imagine a version of yourself 5 years from today who has integrated these lessons completely. Do not focus first on the possessions. Look at the face. How does this person carry themselves? There is less desperation, less need to prove, less fear of the future. Their eyes are calm. Their decisions are deliberate. They do not chase every opportunity because they trust discernment. They do not reject every opportunity because they trust themselves. They are generous without self-destruction. They are disciplined without becoming rigid. They enjoy prosperity without worshiping it. They know money is a tool. They know their worth does not rise and fall with the market. They know their deepest supply is spiritual, while money is one useful expression of earthly provision. This is the inner image you are cultivating. Let yourself become familiar with this person. The more familiar the image becomes, the less strange right action will feel. In the original teaching, there was a man who had remained at roughly the same income level for 15 years. He worked hard. He was capable. He tried many strategies, but his internal identity still seemed calibrated to his old financial level. So he began imagining himself as a person capable of earning substantially more, night after night. At first, the image felt absurd, then less absurd, then possible, then familiar. And eventually his behavior changed. He approached different people. He presented his work differently. He raised his prices. He accepted larger opportunities. The outward growth followed an inward expansion. This is a very important point. Visualization is not valuable because you sit still and imagine numbers while refusing to act. Visualization is valuable when it makes a new identity psychologically and spiritually available to you. Once the identity becomes available, different choices become natural. That is the bridge. Inner image, changed expectation, changed behavior, new circumstance. So tonight, do not ask, how can I get 10 times more money? Ask, Who would I need to become to create, receive, manage, and sustain greater value? That question is far richer. Perhaps you need to become more courageous, perhaps more focused, perhaps more visible, perhaps more patient, perhaps more organized, perhaps more skilled, perhaps more receptive, perhaps less ashamed of wanting success, perhaps less attached to pleasing everyone. Prosperity may be asking you to grow. Do not fear that invitation. Your good is not merely coming to you. Your good is also calling something greater out of you. Now let yourself see that greater self. There is another aspect of the inner image. Do you secretly see yourself as lucky or unlucky, favored or forgotten, supported or abandoned? Do you expect life to cooperate with you or oppose you? This matters because people tend to interpret ambiguous events according to their existing identity. If you believe you are unlucky and a meeting gets canceled, you think, of course, nothing works for me. If you believe you are guided and a meeting gets canceled, you may think, interesting. Perhaps this creates room for something else. Same event, different consciousness, different response, different possible future. So include blessedness in your inner image, not superiority, not the belief that you deserve more than others, simply the expectation that life can contain support. Sigh, I expect useful guidance. I expect meaningful opportunities. I expect to meet people with whom there is mutual benefit. I expect solutions to become visible. I expect my efforts to increasingly bear fruit. I expect divine order. Become the person who expects good without demanding that good arrive in a specific costume. That is mature expectancy. Now, let your visualization deepen. See yourself receiving a message tomorrow that gives you clarity. See yourself having an idea. See yourself responding. See yourself doing the work. See yourself completing the right task. See yourself feeling satisfied because you followed guidance. You do not need to visualize millions tonight. Visualize alignment. Alignment produces far more useful change than fantasy. Now we move from image into feeling, because an image becomes more powerful when it has emotional reality. What does wealth feel like in your body? Not excitement, not showing off, not adrenaline. What does true financial security feel like? Perhaps your shoulders drop. Perhaps your stomach softens. Perhaps your breathing becomes slower. Perhaps your chest feels open. Perhaps your jaw releases. Perhaps you sleep through the night. Perhaps you stop calculating every minute. Perhaps you feel spacious. This is wealthy feeling. It is the feeling of enoughness. The feeling that life is not chasing you. The feeling that you have room. Now, create a little of that feeling before the circumstance changes. This may seem backward, but remember, if you train yourself to access calm only after everything is perfect, you may spend your whole life waiting. Practice calm now, not because every problem is solved, because calm makes problem-solving more intelligent. Take a slow breath. Imagine that every financial obligation in your life can be handled one step at a time. You do not need to solve every year tonight. You only need the next wise step. Feel your body receive that. Another breath. Imagine that new income can be created, perhaps through work, perhaps through a new offer, perhaps through improved value, perhaps through a better decision, perhaps through a channel you have not yet recognized. Feel possibility. Another breath. Imagine that you are not alone with the entire future. You can ask, learn, collaborate, receive, adjust, begin again. Feel support. Now say, I am safe enough to think clearly. I am calm enough to see clearly. I am guided enough to move wisely. I am provided with the next step. Let these statements settle into the body. There was a woman in the teaching who carried severe debt and intense creditor pressure. She was instructed to generate the feeling of wealth before circumstances gave her permission to feel it. At first, external conditions even seemed to worsen, but she practiced remaining internally steady. Over time, solutions appeared. Negotiations changed. Income changed. and eventually debt was resolved. The deeper lesson is not that you can ignore financial problems. The lesson is that panic is not required for responsible action. You can address debt from peace. You can negotiate from dignity. You can make a plan without shaming yourself. You can face difficult numbers without becoming those numbers. Your debt is a condition. It is not your identity. Your current income is a condition. It is not your worth. Your present financial chapter is a condition. It is not your destiny. Sigh. I separate my identity from temporary financial conditions. I am more than any number. I choose calm. I choose wisdom. I choose right action. I choose faith. Now, feel what security would feel like. Let that feeling become familiar tonight. The original text repeatedly emphasizes this principle. The feeling comes before the full outer demonstration. So we practice the feeling not as deception, but as preparation. If prosperity arrived tomorrow, you would want to be able to receive it calmly. Practice that calm now. If an opportunity arrived tomorrow, you would want to respond confidently. Practice that confidence now. If you were paid well tomorrow, you would want to believe you could manage it. Practice that belief now. Your body is learning a new set point. Your mind is learning that abundance does not have to equal danger. Your emotional system is learning that money can coexist with peace. This is important because prosperity that arrives into a nervous system trained only for chaos can quickly become another source of stress. But prosperity received by a consciousness trained in peace can become useful. So feel peace, feel spaciousness, feel enoughness, and say, I feel wealthy in spirit. I feel secure in divine order. I feel open to increasing supply. I feel capable of receiving and sustaining good. My peace does not wait for the numbers. My peace helps me create better numbers. Let yourself smile at that. You are not waiting for permission to become peaceful. You are practicing it now. Now we come to the principle of acting as if. This principle is often misunderstood. Some people interpret it as pretending. Others interpret it as spending money they do not have in order to look rich. That is not wisdom. Acting as if is about embodying the consciousness appropriate to the life you desire. If you wish to become financially secure, how would financial security think? How would it speak? How would it respond to pressure? How would it plan? How would it treat other people's success? How would it approach opportunity? How would it treat money? You begin practicing those qualities before your circumstances are perfect. If you want a prosperous business, begin treating the business seriously before it becomes large. Organize the files, improve the product, respond professionally, learn the numbers, develop the skill, present yourself clearly, honor your clients, respect your time. That is acting as if you are behaving in harmony with the identity you are building. There was a woman in the source material living in poverty who decided to stop embodying poverty in every detail of her behavior. She cared for the clothes she had. She presented herself with dignity. She spoke with greater confidence. She practiced generosity in small ways. She entered environments of greater possibility without deciding she did not belong there. For months, her circumstances remained outwardly similar. But internally, she stopped identifying herself as powerless. Then, external changes began. Better clothing came. Better work appeared. A better living arrangement became available. And eventually, her situation changed substantially. The important element was not pretending she had money. The important element was rehearsing a more prosperous identity. You can practice that tomorrow. Ask yourself, if I already trusted that I was supported, how would I handle this? If an unexpected expense arrives, the scarcity self may say, this is a disaster. The prosperous self says, this requires a solution. Let me look calmly. If an opportunity appears, the scarcity self says, I am probably not qualified. The prosperous self says, let me investigate before rejecting myself. If someone else succeeds, the scarcity self says, they took something from me. The prosperous self says, the existence of their success is evidence that success exists. If you receive money, the scarcity self may immediately spend it because the presence of money creates nervous excitement. The prosperous self says, "Let me direct this intentionally." This is acting as if, not theatrical pretending, practiced identity. Before sleep tonight, review your day through the eyes of your prosperous self. Perhaps something happened today that frightened you. Ask, how would my wiser, calmer, wealth-conscious self interpret this? Perhaps someone rejected you. Your new self might say, "That is information, not humiliation." Perhaps you made a financial mistake. Your new self might say, "I correct it. I learn. I do not build my identity around one mistake." Perhaps you wasted time. Your new self might say, "Tomorrow I will use time more deliberately." Perhaps you hesitated. Your new self might say, "I understand what fear did. Next time, I will respond differently." This evening review becomes a form of re-education. You are teaching the mind to interpret the same life through a different consciousness. Then set an intention for tomorrow. Tomorrow I awaken as the person I am becoming. I think from abundance. I feel from peace. I speak with dignity. I act with wisdom. I notice right opportunities. I make choices that support long-term prosperity. I do not wait for circumstances to give me permission to embody these qualities. You may discover something surprising. After enough practice, you stop acting. The new response becomes natural. At first, you deliberately catch the old thought. Later, the better thought appears first. At first, you have to remind yourself not to panic. Later, calm becomes your initial response. At first, you must deliberately ask for appropriate compensation. Later, undervaluing yourself feels unnatural. This is how identity shifts. Slowly, then suddenly. And this is why consistency matters. One abundant morning surrounded by 99 scarcity days will not establish a new pattern, but repeated alignment changes what feels normal. This brings us naturally to divine timing, because once people begin practicing these principles, they often make a new mistake. They become impatient. I have affirmed for 3 days. Where is the money? I have visualized for a week. Why has nothing happened? I have changed my thoughts. Why is my bank account the same? This impatience can throw the mind back into fear. The original teaching uses a beautiful seed metaphor. If you plant a seed, you do not dig it up every morning to check whether it has become a tree. You understand that invisible development precedes visible growth. Roots form before fruit appears. This is true in practical life as well. An idea may need development before it becomes income. A skill may need practice. A relationship may need time. A business may need trust. A reputation may need consistency. A debt reduction plan may need months. A new identity may need repeated evidence before it feels stable. Not every invisible process is mystical. Some are simply developmental. But either way, impatience rarely helps. There is a difference between alertness and obsession. Alertness asks, "What is my next right action?" Obsession asks, "Why is it not here yet?" Alertness can respond. Obsession contracts. So plant your seeds and tend them. Do the work. Listen. Adjust. But stop digging up your faith every hour. Sigh. I trust right timing. I do not need to force the fruit before the roots are ready. I take right action today. I release anxiety about the complete timetable. I allow orderly unfoldment. This does not mean becoming passive. A farmer trusts the seasons and still waters the field. Trust and action belong together. You can trust divine order and still send the application. Trust and still follow up. Trust and still learn. Trust and still change your offer. Trust and still negotiate. Trust and still save. Trust and still study. Trust is not sitting motionless. Trust is acting without frantic desperation. There was a woman in the teaching who practiced prosperity consciousness for 90 days and saw little outward change. But she continually checked her finances anxiously, compared herself with others, measured every day, asked constantly whether it was working. The lesson she received was that she was planting seeds at night and digging them up every morning through doubt. So she practiced surrender. She stopped compulsively measuring, continued her nightly work, maintained daily awareness, and allowed time for the process. Then changes began appearing. Whether we receive this as spiritual metaphor or practical psychology, the principle is valuable. Growth requires room. Do not suffocate your transformation by measuring it every hour. Think of any meaningful process: fitness, learning a language, building trust, creating a business, healing a relationship, growing an audience, saving money, developing skill. None of these reveal the complete harvest after 3 days. You practice, you continue. Then one day the accumulated change becomes visible. Prosperity consciousness develops similarly. Tonight, imagine planting a seed in rich soil. The seed represents your new relationship with money. You cover it, you water it, and then you leave it alone. You do not stand over the ground shouting, "Grow, grow now, prove you are growing." You trust. Underneath the soil, something can begin. Let that image become your lesson. Your job is the daily practice. Your job is the nightly word. Your job is wise action. Your job is attention. Your job is correction when you fall into old habits. The entire timetable is not yours to command. This relieves enormous pressure. You do not need to know how every step will happen. The person who insists on knowing the whole path before taking the first step rarely leaves the starting point. Faith says, "I see the next step, that is enough." So tonight, repeat, "I trust divine timing. I trust perfect unfoldment. I know that right growth is taking place even when I cannot yet see every result." I release comparison. I release frantic checking. I release the demand that my path look like anyone else's. My path unfolds in right order. I take today's action and release tomorrow's anxiety. Let these words settle. Now think about comparison. Someone else receives an opportunity faster. Someone else's business grows sooner. Someone else shares a dramatic story. Do not use their timing against yourself. Their path is not yours. Their resources are not yours. Their preparation is not yours. Their challenges are not yours. Comparison can turn someone else's blessing into your evidence of lack. Refuse that. Sigh, "I bless their good, and I remain faithful to my path." That sentence restores power. Another person's prosperity does not reduce your possibilities. Bless what you want to experience. Celebrate evidence that abundance exists. This is a much healthier consciousness than resentment. Now return to the seed. Your prosperity consciousness is becoming rooted. You are learning gratitude. You are changing the inner image. You are practicing wealthy feeling. You are acting in harmony with the person you wish to become. You are learning to trust timing. All these elements reinforce one another. And now we enter another important teaching: the principle of effortless supply. Effortless supply does not mean doing nothing. It means releasing the belief that suffering itself creates prosperity. The world often praises exhaustion, long hours, constant pressure, never resting, always grinding, always proving. And sometimes intense effort is genuinely necessary for a season. But effort and value are not identical. More exhaustion does not automatically produce more wealth. A person can work 18 hours a day in the wrong direction. Another can make one wise decision that changes everything. A person can repeat low-value work endlessly. Another can learn one valuable skill and dramatically increase compensation. So, the real question is not, how can I work harder? The better question is, what action creates the greatest right value? This is where divine intelligence and practical wisdom meet. Effortless supply is not laziness. It is alignment. It is learning to distinguish inspired, useful effort from compulsive, fearful effort. Fearful effort feels like, if I stop for one moment, everything will collapse. I have to control every detail. Nobody can help me. I must do everything. Money only comes through pain. Rest is dangerous. Ease cannot be trusted. Inspired effort feels different. There may still be work. There may still be discipline. But there is clarity, purpose, order. You know why you are doing what you are doing. You are not scattering energy everywhere because fear says more motion must mean more progress. Sometimes the prosperity move is to work. Sometimes it is to delegate. Sometimes to stop. Sometimes to simplify. Sometimes to ask. Sometimes to automate. Sometimes to raise prices. Sometimes to remove a product. Sometimes to create one. Sometimes to rest until a clearer idea appears. The spiritually guided life is not uniformly busy. It is responsive. The original teaching tells of a man working 3 jobs and sleeping only 4 hours each night. He believed financial security could only be produced through relentless labor. Yet he remained financially strained while his health deteriorated and time with his family disappeared. He was challenged to reconsider the belief that only exhausting effort deserved compensation. Whether or not one follows such an example literally, the principle deserves attention. If your financial strategy is destroying your health, relationships, judgment, and creativity, it is worth asking whether there is a wiser model. Prosperity should increasingly create life, not merely consume it. Sigh. I release the belief that suffering is the price of prosperity. I welcome intelligent work. I welcome inspired work. I welcome high-value work. I welcome right compensation. I welcome systems that create efficiency. I welcome assistance. I welcome collaboration. I welcome rest that restores clarity. I welcome prosperity through grace and wisdom. Now ask yourself, where am I forcing? Where in my financial life do I believe only struggle is legitimate? Perhaps you have a business and refuse to delegate. Perhaps you continue offering something no longer profitable because you are afraid to change. Perhaps you take every client regardless of fit. Perhaps you undercharge and compensate by working more hours. Perhaps you stay in a role where your skill is undervalued because familiarity feels safer than possibility. Perhaps you have confused busyness with productivity. Maybe abundance is asking you to stop proving how much pain you can tolerate. There is a quiet dignity in allowing things to become simpler. A good system can be prosperity. A clear boundary can be prosperity. A useful tool can be prosperity. Delegation can be prosperity. A well-designed process can be prosperity. A rested mind can produce ideas an exhausted mind cannot perceive. Do not glorify unnecessary struggle. Your faith does not need you to suffer in order to prove sincerity. 1 hour of clear, inspired action can indeed be more valuable than 10 hours of fearful movement. Think of a writer staring exhausted at a page for 8 hours. Then after sleep, one clear idea produces the entire structure in 30 minutes. Think of a business owner doing every small task personally. Then, one hire frees enough time to pursue a major client. Think of someone endlessly applying randomly for jobs. Then one conversation directs them toward a field that actually fits their skills. More force was not the answer. Better alignment was. This is what effortless supply points toward. You still participate, but you stop believing your limited conscious effort is the only force available. You become open to guidance, relationships, timing, collaboration, ideas, technologies, systems, other people's expertise, unexpected channels, right introductions. This is abundance thinking. Scarcity says, I must personally create everything. Abundance says, life contains resources beyond what I can presently see. Notice how much lighter that feels. Tonight, repeat, I am effortlessly guided to effective action. Money does not require self-destruction. I create value with intelligence. I welcome appropriate compensation. I release unnecessary struggle. I trust that the right way can be simpler than the old way. I am open to supply through expected and unexpected channels. Now be careful with the word effortless. It does not mean every meaningful thing will be easy. Growth sometimes requires courage. Learning may require discipline. Building something worthwhile can demand persistence. The point is not that effort disappears. The point is that needless resistance decreases. You stop fighting yourself. You stop fighting reality where adaptation is wiser. You stop clinging to methods that no longer work. You stop assuming difficulty automatically proves value. You move with, rather than against, what is intelligently unfolding. This is flow. Consider the difference between rowing against a strong current and adjusting the boat to work with the current. The person still participates, but direction matters. Prosperity consciousness asks, where is the current moving? What is life trying to show me? What does the market need? What do people value? What skill is becoming useful? What is my intuition repeatedly pointing toward? Where is there unnecessary friction? What can be simplified? What can be improved? What can be released? These are prosperous questions. Now, imagine tomorrow. You wake. You remember. I do not need to force everything. You look at your tasks. Instead of beginning with the loudest panic, you ask, what is the highest value action today? Perhaps one task becomes obvious. You complete it, then another. This is far more prosperous than scattering yourself across 20 anxieties. Prosperity loves order. Chaos consumes energy. Order releases it. So simplify. One bill at a time. One conversation at a time. One skill at a time. One client at a time. One investment decision at a time. One right action at a time. Do not carry the entire financial future in your nervous system at once. Divine order works through sequence. The next step, then the next, then the next. Let yourself trust sequence. This alone can create enormous peace. Sigh, I do not need the complete answer tonight. I receive the next right step. I act on the next right step. Then the following step is revealed. This is enough. There is another dimension of effortless supply, receiving. Some people are skilled at giving and terrible at receiving. They refuse help, reject compliments, undercharge, return gifts immediately, feel uncomfortable when others support them. They have learned that virtue means always being the giver, but circulation requires both directions. If you refuse to receive, you interrupt circulation. Tomorrow, if someone offers appropriate help, notice your reflex. Do you instantly say, no, I am fine? Perhaps practice saying, thank you. If someone praises your work, do you immediately diminish it? Instead say, thank you, I appreciate that. If someone wants to pay you appropriately, do you feel compelled to discount automatically? Pause. Receiving is part of prosperity consciousness. You cannot constantly ask for abundance and then close the door when it knocks in forms that trigger discomfort. Practice receiving. Say, I receive graciously. I receive without guilt. I receive appreciation. I receive opportunity. I receive money. I receive guidance. I receive support. And I use what I receive wisely. There is strength in that. Now, as you become drowsier, imagine a river, supply moving toward you, and supply moving through you, not stagnant, not grasped, not feared, flowing. Some becomes food, some becomes shelter, some becomes savings, some becomes investment, some becomes generosity, some becomes education, some becomes rest, some becomes beauty, some becomes opportunity. Money moves, value moves, service moves, gratitude moves. This is circulation. You are part of the circulation. You are not excluded from it. Let that image stay with you. The river does not panic because it gave water downstream. It continues flowing, and you do not have to hoard every form of good in terror when you trust that you can remain connected to supply. This does not mean careless spending. Wise stewardship and faith belong together. You can save without fear. You can invest without greed. You can give without self-destruction. You can spend without guilt when spending is appropriate. You can receive without shame. Balance. That is the word. Divine order creates balance. So tonight, I release forced effort. I welcome inspired action. I release frantic striving. I welcome clear direction. I release the belief that exhaustion makes me worthy. I am worthy before I work. My work expresses value. It does not create my spiritual worth. I welcome prosperity with peace. I welcome abundance with responsibility. I welcome ease with wisdom. I am guided into more effective channels of supply. And now there is nothing else you must solve in this moment. Let your body sink more deeply. Let the mattress carry your weight. Let your hands loosen. Let your breathing become natural. Your mind does not have to search anymore tonight. The answers that matter can come in their proper time. You are grateful. You are preparing. You are changing your inner image. You are learning wealthy feeling. You are beginning to embody your prosperous self. You trust divine timing. You welcome effortless supply. All these teachings are beginning to form one consciousness, a consciousness that says, I am not abandoned. I am not powerless. I am not required to repeat the old story forever. I can think differently. I can speak differently. I can choose differently. I can prepare differently. I can work differently. I can receive differently. I can relate to money differently. I can become a different steward of life. And therefore, a different financial life becomes possible. Rest in that possibility tonight. You do not have to force belief. Let belief grow. You do not have to force prosperity. Let yourself become available to it. You do not have to command every detail. Let divine intelligence guide the sequence. The next step will be shown, and when it is shown, you will recognize it. You will have the courage to take it. You will move with faith rather than fear. Your words are becoming clearer. Your inner image is becoming stronger. Your emotional relationship with money is becoming more peaceful. Your capacity is expanding. Your consciousness is preparing for good. And tomorrow, you continue. One thought, one word, one choice, one act of courage, one expression of gratitude, one step at a time. The way is made clear before you. Sleep now in peace. Sleep in gratitude. Sleep in divine order. You are guided. You are supported. You are open. And all is unfolding in right order. Pardon enough. Now we come to doubt. Doubt is subtle because it often disguises itself as realism. It says, I am just being practical. I am only looking at the facts. I am simply protecting myself from disappointment. But often what we call realism is yesterday's consciousness insisting that tomorrow must resemble yesterday. That is not always wisdom. Sometimes it is habit wearing the clothes of logic. You begin a new practice. You speak differently. You imagine differently. You start making better decisions. And then the old voice says, look at your bank account. Nothing has changed. You have tried things before. Do not get your hopes up. People like you do not suddenly prosper. This voice does not necessarily sound dramatic. Often it sounds reasonable. That is why it is powerful. And yet, if every new possibility must first receive permission from old evidence, nothing truly new can ever begin. Your present circumstances are evidence of what has already been lived, chosen, tolerated, believed, attempted, avoided, learned, and repeated. They are not proof of what is permanently possible. This distinction matters. If you look at a present financial condition and say, this is all I will ever have, you turn a temporary condition into an identity. But if you say, this is where I am beginning, the entire emotional atmosphere changes. One sentence closes, the other opens, and tonight you are choosing the open sentence. I am beginning. I am learning. I am shifting. I am preparing. I am becoming available to greater good. Now, certainty does not mean pretending that you know every external outcome. Healthy spiritual certainty is deeper than that. It says, I know I can be guided. I know I can grow. I know my present situation can change. I know my mind can become clearer. I know my financial habits can improve. I know opportunities exist beyond what I presently see. I know. Divine intelligence can reveal right action. This kind of knowing is stable. It does not require you to predict exact dates. It does not require you to command life like a machine. It rests on principles rather than panic. You may not know exactly how prosperity will unfold, but you can know that fear is not your highest counselor. You can know that disciplined thought is stronger than habitual defeat. You can know that wise action accumulates. You can know that clarity produces better choices. You can know that new choices create new conditions. This is certainty. The original teaching repeatedly contrasts hoping with knowing. Hope says, maybe. Knowing says, I will continue faithfully because I understand the principle I am practicing. That difference is important. A person who hopes for prosperity may still panic at every setback. A person who develops deep inner certainty can remain steady while circumstances are still rearranging. Steadiness is power. Not loudness, not intensity. Steadiness. Imagine a tree in strong wind. Its strength is not in screaming at the storm. Its strength is in rootedness. You are developing roots. Every night of disciplined consciousness becomes another root. Every time you catch a destructive sentence and replace it, another root. Every wise financial choice, another root. Every moment of gratitude, another root. Every act of courageous receiving, another root. Every time you refuse comparison, another root. Eventually, the wind still blows, but it no longer moves you in the same way. This is the kind of certainty you are building. Now ask yourself, where does doubt enter most easily? Perhaps when you look at numbers. Perhaps when you compare yourself to others. Perhaps when someone questions your goals. Perhaps when an opportunity takes longer than expected. Perhaps when one failure reminds you of 10 previous failures. Perhaps when progress is small. Become familiar with the doorway through which doubt enters. Then guard that doorway. If doubt enters through comparison, stop using other people's timelines against yourself. If doubt enters through obsessive checking, reduce the checking. If doubt enters through financial avoidance, replace avoidance with scheduled, calm review. If doubt enters through negative conversations, be selective about what you absorb. If doubt enters through social media, notice how certain content affects your consciousness. This is not denial. It is stewardship of attention. Attention is one of your greatest spiritual resources. You cannot give every voice equal access to it. Protect it. The original teaching emphasizes that prosperity programming at night can be weakened if daytime consciousness is flooded with fear and contradiction. That is practical. You cannot rehearse trust for 10 minutes and rehearse disaster for 10 hours and expect the 10 minutes to dominate. So tomorrow, notice your dominant language. How often do you say, "This is too expensive. Things are terrible. Money is impossible. Everyone is struggling. There is no opportunity." Do not become rigid or artificial. Simply become aware. Then choose language that is more accurate and more constructive. Instead of, "Everything is terrible," sigh, "Some things are difficult and I am looking for the right response." Instead of, "There is no opportunity," sigh, "I have not yet found the right opportunity." Instead of, "I cannot afford anything," sigh, "This is not my priority right now." Instead of, "I will never get out of this," sigh, "I am working my way into greater order." These words do not deny reality. They stop magnifying limitation. Tonight, repeat, "I know that change is possible. I know that my consciousness is becoming stronger. I know that wise action produces results over time. I know that divine intelligence guides me. I know that I am learning to prosper. I know that I am not required to repeat the past. I know that good can arrive through channels I cannot yet see." Feel the word no, not force. No, you do not have to convince anyone else. This is quiet inner certainty, and quiet certainty is enough. Now, we turn toward emotional blocks around money, because many people think about money with one part of the mind while feeling something entirely different underneath. Consciously, they say, "I want wealth," but emotionally, money triggers fear, or shame, or guilt, or anger, or resentment, or conflict, or grief. And those feelings matter. Perhaps when you were young, money conversations meant arguments. You heard raised voices. You saw tension. You watched adults become frightened. Your nervous system may have learned. Money equals danger. Later, you consciously want more money. But something in you still braces when money becomes the subject. Perhaps you grew up with very little and felt ashamed. You saw what others had. You felt different. You learned to hide needs. You learned not to ask. Now, financial conversations awaken old embarrassment. Perhaps you were taught that wealthy people are selfish, greedy, corrupt, unspiritual. Then, somewhere deep within you, prosperity becomes morally dangerous. You say you want to be wealthy, but another part of you says, if I become wealthy, perhaps I become the kind of person I dislike. That internal contradiction can be exhausting. Perhaps you feel guilty about earning more than your parents, or siblings, or friends. Perhaps success feels like betrayal. Perhaps part of you believes, if I rise, I leave them behind. This is why emotional clearing matters. The goal is not to force yourself into constant positivity. The goal is to make money emotionally neutral enough that wisdom can operate. Money is a tool. It can be used well or poorly. It can support generosity or selfishness. It can create freedom or addiction. The tool itself does not determine the character. The consciousness using the tool matters. So tonight, ask gently, what do I feel when I think about money? Do not answer with what you think you should feel. What actually arises? Fear? Shame? Pressure? Excitement? Envy? Resentment? Guilt? Helplessness? Take the first honest answer. Suppose it is fear. Sigh, I notice fear around money. Do not say, I am fearful. Sigh, I notice fear. This separates you from the emotion. You are the awareness, noticing fear. You are not the fear itself. Then continue. This fear may have been learned. This fear may have once protected me, but I do not need to build my future from this fear. I am willing to release financial fear. I am willing to learn peace. Notice the word willing. You may not be able to command an old emotion to vanish instantly, but willingness begins movement. Now imagine the fear as a tightness in the chest or a knot in the stomach. Do not fight it. Breathe around it. Let it be seen. Then say, money can be handled calmly. Numbers can be examined calmly. Decisions can be made calmly. I am safe enough to learn. I am safe enough to receive. I am safe enough to plan. I am safe enough to ask for help. I am safe enough to prosper. If the emotion is shame, say, I release shame from my financial life. A financial mistake does not make me unworthy. A difficult season does not make me inferior. I can learn without humiliating myself. I can face numbers without attacking myself. I choose responsibility instead of shame. This is powerful. Shame often keeps people from looking, and what is not looked at cannot be wisely managed. Compassion can create responsibility far more effectively than self-hatred. If the emotion is guilt, ask, why would greater prosperity make me guilty? Perhaps because others have less. Then remember, your lack does not solve someone else's lack. Your wisdom, generosity, creativity, employment, giving, and contribution may actually increase when you have greater resources. You are allowed to prosper ethically. Sigh, I can prosper and remain kind. I can succeed and remain generous. I can receive more and use more wisely. My prosperity does not require anyone else's deprivation. I release guilt around receiving. If the emotion is resentment toward wealthy people, become honest. Perhaps you have said, they are all greedy. They had advantages. They are shallow. Perhaps some people are. But if your subconscious hears wealth associated constantly with contempt, why would it feel safe allowing you to join the category you despise? So separate wealth from character. There are kind, wealthy people, cruel, wealthy people, kind, poor people, cruel, poor people. Money does not create the whole person. Sigh. I release resentment toward prosperity. I bless ethical wealth. I bless people who create value honestly. I bless generosity. I bless responsible success. I give myself permission to prosper without becoming what I do not respect. The source material includes examples of people discovering resentment toward the rich and guilt around surpassing their parents financially. The teaching frames these as unconscious emotional ceilings that must be released before prosperity can feel safe. This is a profound idea. Sometimes the ceiling is not economic, it is emotional. You may know how to earn more, but are you comfortable being the person who earns more? You may know how to ask for more, but are you comfortable being seen asking? You may know how to grow, but are you comfortable leaving an old identity? That is the question. Tonight, practice a simple emotional scan. Think the word money. Notice your body. Think the word wealth. Notice your body. Think the phrase high income. Notice your body. Think the phrase financial freedom. Notice your body. Think the phrase receiving more than I need. Notice your body. Where do you tighten? That is information. Do not judge it. Then breathe and say, I release old emotional associations with money. I allow money to become peaceful. I allow wealth to become safe. I allow prosperity to coexist with goodness. I allow receiving to coexist with gratitude. I allow success to coexist with humility. I allow abundance to coexist with spiritual depth. My relationship with money is becoming clean and peaceful. Rest there, because clear emotional relationship is just as important as clear thought. You can think the right sentence while the body is screaming the opposite. So bring thought and feeling into alignment, not instantly, gradually, night after night. Peace replacing fear, respect replacing shame, permission replacing guilt, neutrality replacing resentment, wisdom replacing confusion. The goal is not obsession with money. The goal is freedom from emotional bondage to money. That is true prosperity. Now we enter what the original teaching describes as the invisible bridge between consciousness and form. This is the period between planting an inner intention and seeing a corresponding external result. And this period is where many people become unstable. They know what they want. They have spoken the word. They have visualized. They have taken action. But nothing obvious has happened yet. And the mind says, it is not working. This gap is uncomfortable because human beings like visible proof. But many meaningful processes contain invisible stages. A business opportunity begins as a conversation. A book begins as an idea. A relationship begins as contact. A skill begins as awkward practice. A harvest begins underground. A child develops before birth. Much of creation spends time unseen. This is why patience is not weakness. Patience is often respect for process. The original text uses the metaphor of pregnancy. Once conception occurs, the result is not immediately visible in final form. Development takes place. Conditions must support it. Growth has its own sequence. Manifestation can be considered similarly. You set an intention. You change your behavior. You begin speaking differently. You build a new identity. You prepare. Then, invisible consequences begin accumulating. Your decisions change. People respond differently. Your work improves. Your standards shift. New conversations occur. Connections form. Information reaches you. Possibilities multiply. But perhaps the bank balance has not yet changed. Do not conclude that nothing is happening. The visible number is only one indicator. Look deeper. Are you less afraid? Are you more organized? Are you making better choices? Are you more willing to ask? Are you more willing to receive? Are you less ashamed? Are you spotting opportunities faster? Are you becoming more valuable in what you offer? These are bridge signs. Internal movement before external confirmation. Now, There are two mistakes people make during this period. The first is obsession. The second is neglect. Obsession means constantly checking, constantly measuring, constantly asking, is it here yet? Why not? How long? This creates tension. Neglect means planting an intention and then doing nothing to support it. No action, no learning, no attention, no follow-through. The middle path is faithful expectation. You remember the intention. You nourish it. You take appropriate action, but you do not strangle it with anxiety. Think of the farmer again. The farmer does not forget the field. The farmer waters, weeds, protects, observes. But the farmer does not scream at the seeds. This is faithful expectation. You care without clinging. You act without forcing. You trust without becoming passive. So tonight say, my good is developing through right processes. I support it with right action. I release the need to control every detail. I allow the path to unfold. I remain attentive without becoming anxious. I trust that what needs to be prepared can be prepared. Now imagine an invisible bridge in front of you. Behind you is the old consciousness, fear, scarcity, self-doubt, confusion. Ahead is greater order, greater prosperity, greater peace. You are on the bridge, not at the beginning, not yet at the final visible destination. The bridge may feel strange because you cannot use the old identity anymore, but the new life is not fully visible yet. This is where faith becomes real. You keep walking, one step, then another. If you turn around every time the destination is not immediately visible, you remain trapped between worlds. Keep walking. Perhaps your next step is practical. Send the proposal. Save the money. Study the skill. Have the conversation. Make the budget. Ask the question. Follow up. Rest. Wait. Different days require different steps. The bridge is not crossed by anxiety. It is crossed by continued alignment. The source tells of a woman attempting to manifest a specific sum while repeatedly checking her account, talking about the absence of the money, and comparing herself with others. The prescribed shift was to acknowledge once that the process was underway and then release obsessive checking while continuing the nightly practice. This is excellent discipline. One clear acknowledgement, then live your day. Your life is larger than the manifestation you are waiting for. Do not suspend joy until the money arrives. Do not suspend relationships. Do not suspend beauty. Do not suspend rest. Do not make one desire your entire emotional universe. That creates desperation. Instead, I know what I desire. I am taking right action. I trust the process, and I remain alive today. This is freedom. Faithful expectation says, my good is in motion. Then it goes to breakfast. It works. It loves. It rests. It notices life. It does not stand at the window all day demanding the delivery truck. Tonight, practice this release. Sigh. I release the how. I release the when. I release the need to force. I retain faith. I retain right action. I retain openness. I retain gratitude. My work is to hold the consciousness and follow guidance. The details can unfold through intelligence greater than my conscious planning. Rest in that. Now we come to giving and receiving. And this teaching requires balance. Some people hear give and become afraid because they already overgive. Others hear receive and feel guilty. Both sides belong in healthy circulation. Prosperity is not hoarding, but prosperity is also not self-erasure. The original teaching emphasizes that giving creates openness. This does not mean giving away money you need for food, medicine, shelter, or essential obligations. It means practicing an abundant spirit. You can give attention, encouragement, kindness, knowledge, time, a useful introduction, a smile, a sincere compliment, patience. Generosity is larger than money, and when financial giving is appropriate, it should come from wisdom, rather than fear or manipulation. Giving from resentment does not feel abundant. Giving to prove worth does not feel abundant. Giving in order to force the universe to pay you back is still a form of bargaining. True generosity says, I have something of value to share. That consciousness matters. The source includes a story of a woman in severe poverty who believed she had nothing to give. She was reminded that generosity could begin with a smile, a kind word, attention, time, or service. As she began giving in these forms, her relationships and opportunities shifted. The principle is beautiful. You are never entirely without something to contribute, and contribution builds dignity. When people are trapped in scarcity, they often think only in terms of what they need. That is understandable. But even during difficulty, contributing something can change identity. Instead of, I am only someone who needs help, you begin experiencing, I also have value to give. That shift is powerful. Now, receiving. Can you receive without immediately apologizing? Can you allow someone to help? Can you allow a compliment to remain? Can you allow compensation to reach you? Can you receive a gift without rushing to repay it so you do not feel indebted? Sometimes refusing to receive is not humility. It is discomfort with worthiness. Let receiving become graceful. Sigh, thank you. That may be enough. If someone offers appropriate help, thank you. If someone pays you, thank you. If someone praises your work, thank you. If opportunity arrives, thank you. Receiving does not make you weak. It completes circulation. Imagine two hands. One hand gives, one hand receives. If one hand is always closed, circulation becomes difficult. Open both. Sigh, I give wisely. I receive graciously. I circulate good. I do not hoard from fear. I do not give from guilt. I give from love. I receive with gratitude. I use resources intelligently. I remain open. Now, consider how giving changes your consciousness. If you give a sincere compliment, you affirm that value exists. If you share knowledge, you affirm that you have something worthwhile. If you help someone, you affirm capacity. If you give financially in a wise way, you affirm that money can circulate rather than remain an object of terror. Generosity says, there is enough in me to contribute something. That is abundance consciousness. But again, wisdom matters. Do not give away what should be used to fulfill essential obligations merely to prove spiritual faith. Divine order is balanced. The spiritually mature giver also knows boundaries. You can say no and remain generous. You can preserve resources and remain abundant. You can choose where giving is useful. Prosperity is not indiscriminate openness. It includes discernment. Now imagine tomorrow. Find one thing to give. A word, a message, a useful idea, a sincere thank you, a small financial gift if appropriate, a moment of listening. Then notice how it feels. Not to manipulate a return, simply to participate in circulation. And tomorrow, find one thing to receive without resistance. Practice both. Night after night, this balance rewrites your identity. You are not merely a seeker of supply. You become a participant in supply. That is a deeper form of prosperity. Now we come to the deepest realization in the original transmission. Most people think they want money, but often what they actually want is what they believe money will make them feel. Security, freedom, peace, worthiness, respect, ease, choice, joy, comfort, adventure, power. So ask yourself tonight, what do I believe money will give me emotionally? Do not answer too quickly. Suppose the answer is security. Then the deeper desire is not money alone. It is security. Can you begin cultivating security before all the money arrives? Not by pretending bills do not exist. By grounding security in something deeper than numbers. You can say, my deepest security comes from my capacity to learn, adapt, create, connect, and be guided. My security is not entirely held in one bank account. I can respond to change. I can ask for help. I can begin again. I am connected to divine intelligence. This creates a form of security that money can support, but cannot entirely create. Suppose the answer is freedom. Then ask, where can I practice freedom now? Perhaps by saying no to something draining. Perhaps by making one deliberate choice instead of reacting automatically. Perhaps by reclaiming 1 hour. Perhaps by releasing one obligation that is no longer yours. Freedom can begin before financial independence. Suppose the answer is worthiness. This is crucial. If you believe money will finally prove that you matter, no amount may ever be enough. Worthiness cannot be permanently purchased. You are worthy before the number. Your work may become more valuable. Your income may grow. Your influence may expand. But your human worth does not begin at a salary threshold. Sigh. My worth is inherent. My income can change without changing my worth. I pursue prosperity from worthiness, not in search of worthiness. That one sentence can change everything. Suppose the answer is happiness. Do not wait for money to permit happiness. Find beauty now, laughter now, connection now, gratitude now, meaning now. The source describes the same reversal. A woman seeking money because she believed it would make her happy, that was taught to practice happiness, consciousness first, rather than waiting for financial conditions to grant permission. This is not denial. It is freedom from emotional hostage-taking. You stop saying, I will allow myself to live once money arrives. Live now, prosper now in every dimension already available. Then allow financial prosperity to join a life that is already alive. This reduces desperation, and desperation often clouds judgment. A desperate person accepts the wrong client, the wrong deal, the wrong job, the wrong investment, the wrong promise. A fulfilled person can discern. This is why inner fulfillment can support better financial outcomes. You are no longer begging one opportunity to save your entire life. You can evaluate it. You can say, yes, or no. From clarity, this is power. Now repeat, I am secure in consciousness. I am free in consciousness. I am worthy in consciousness. I am peaceful in consciousness. I am grateful in consciousness. I do not need money to prove these states. I welcome money as an expression that supports these states. Feel the difference. Need says, I must have this, or I am incomplete. Preference says, I welcome this good, but my being is not held hostage by it. Preference is freer, and freedom is magnetic because it allows discernment. Tonight, practice fulfilled consciousness. Before sleep, ask, what feeling am I waiting for money to give me? Then, give yourself a seed of that feeling now. Security, freedom, worthiness, peace, joy, whatever it is. Let the feeling become inwardly available. True wealth begins there. Now we come to the nighttime decree. This is where spoken word, feeling, and timing come together. A decree is not begging. It is not frantic repetition. It is a clear statement of the consciousness you are choosing. The original teaching frames the moments before sleep as especially important for this practice. So tonight, after gratitude, after visualization, after emotional clearing, after releasing timing, speak one final decree. Keep it clear, keep it calm, keep it in present tense, and most importantly, let it reflect right order rather than reckless demand. You may say, I now choose and declare divine order in my financial life. I am guided to right work, right opportunities, right compensation, and right decisions. Money flows through ethical and beneficial channels. I receive wisely. I retain wisely. I give wisely. I use abundance for good. My mind is peaceful. My actions are clear. My prosperity is increasing in right and perfect ways. I trust the unfolding. It is done in consciousness. Now I release it. This is stronger than saying 10 contradictory things. One clear word, then release. The original text repeatedly emphasizes that the decree should be spoken with authority, feeling, and consistency, then followed by release rather than obsessive checking. That last part is essential. Speak, then stop. Do not immediately say, "But what if?" Do not attach a second speech of fear to the first speech of faith. Let the decree stand. Think of mailing a letter. You write it, seal it, send it. You do not follow the postal carrier down the street screaming, "Are you sure?" Release completes the act. Tonight, after your decree, say, "I release this into divine intelligence. I do not need to force the result. I remain available to guidance. I remain available to right action. I rest, then sleep." Now we approach what the original calls the Great Shift. This is the moment when prosperity consciousness stops feeling like a practice and begins feeling natural. At first, you must remind yourself, catch the thought, replace the sentence, do the visualization, practice gratitude deliberately. Later, something changes. You notice that abundant thoughts arise first. You notice that financial anxiety is quieter. You notice that you do not automatically expect disaster. You notice that generosity feels natural. You notice that receiving feels less uncomfortable. You notice that you make wiser decisions without debating yourself for hours. This is the Great Shift. The new consciousness becomes dominant. You are no longer pretending to be different. You have become different in some meaningful way. The source describes one woman experiencing this around the 18th night, not as a dramatic spectacle, but as a quiet inner click, a stable knowing that no longer required constant effort. That is an important detail. Transformation is often quiet. People expect fireworks. Instead, one day you simply notice, "I did not panic. I said no. I asked. I received. I looked at the numbers. I made the call. I slept peacefully." That is transformation. Celebrate it. Do not wait for $1 million to acknowledge progress. Perhaps your greatest evidence is that you are no longer psychologically ruled by money. That is immense. From there, external change becomes much easier to navigate because you are acting from a different center. The Great Shift may happen on night 10, night 18, night 40. There is no need to force the timeline. Your task is consistency. Continue. Continue until peace feels more familiar than panic. Continue until wise receiving feels normal. Continue until prosperity no longer feels morally suspicious. Continue until you stop defining yourself by old financial pain. Continue until the word money does not tighten your whole body. This is the deeper transformation. Part Keynes. Now we come to the sacred aftermath. What happens after the meditation matters. Tomorrow morning, your circumstances may look identical. The same room, the same account balance, the same responsibilities. This is where old consciousness may try to return. You wake, check your phone, see a bill, read bad economic news, hear someone complain, and within 10 minutes, the consciousness you cultivated all night can be covered again by old noise. So protect the seed. The source calls this protecting consciousness during the period before external results fully appear. It recommends morning reaffirmation, daytime check-ins, selective attention to scarcity-saturated inputs, and continued nightly reinforcement. This is wise. Tomorrow, before touching your phone, take 3 minutes. Breathe. Remember. Sigh. I awaken in divine order. I maintain the consciousness I practiced last night. I think clearly. I speak carefully. I act wisely. I refuse to let one circumstance define my day. I remain open to good. 3 minutes. That is enough. Then, during the day, check in 3 times. Morning, afternoon, evening. Ask, what consciousness am I in right now? Scarcity? Prosperity? Fear? Trust? Chaos? Order. If you notice scarcity, do not attack yourself. Return. 1 breath, 1 word. I am guided. I choose order. I release fear. Return. This is training. The original also advises protecting your consciousness from contamination. That does not mean avoiding all reality. It means noticing what you repeatedly expose yourself to. If you listen all day to people declaring that everything is hopeless, that prosperity is impossible, that everyone is doomed, eventually that atmosphere enters you. Be selective, not ignorant. Selective. Learn facts, but do not worship fear. Watch news, if useful, but do not let crisis become your spiritual diet. Talk with people honestly, but do not participate endlessly in conversations that glorify helplessness. Protecting consciousness is like protecting a flame while it is still small. Later, when your inner stability is stronger, you can face storms without losing yourself. But in early transformation, be wise. The Source gives the image of a newly planted tree that requires protection before its roots are strong enough to withstand wind. That is exactly what you are doing. Your new financial consciousness is still taking root. Protect it. Continue nightly reinforcement. It does not need to be 4 hours every night. Even 10 minutes can be useful. 3 minutes gratitude, 3 minutes visualization and wealthy feeling, 3 minutes decree and release. Simple, consistent. Consistency is more valuable than occasional intensity. Now, what if you see small evidence? An unexpected $20, a small discount, a client inquiry, a helpful conversation, a debt arrangement, a useful idea. Do not dismiss it because it is not dramatic enough. The Source warns against ignoring small evidence during the aftermath period. Celebrate movement, not with superstition, with awareness. Sigh, this is movement. This is evidence that I am noticing and creating differently. Small evidence builds confidence. Confidence supports larger action. Now, if nothing visible happens quickly, do not abandon the practice. Remember the bridge. Remember the seed. Remember that not all growth is immediate. Continue until the new consciousness becomes stable for its own sake. That is important. Do not make inner peace conditional on outer reward. If you practice prosperity consciousness only as long as money immediately appears, you are still letting circumstances control consciousness. The deeper mastery is, I practice this because this is the person I choose to be. Calm, clear, grateful, wise, generous, receptive, disciplined, guided, whether money arrives tomorrow or later. This consciousness improves your life now. And because it improves your decisions, relationships, attention, and courage, it also creates better conditions for financial prosperity. That is enough reason to continue. Now we arrive at the closing. You have moved through a complete inner journey. You began with the decision to stop carrying financial fear into sleep. You learned that words matter. You examined inherited beliefs. You prepared yourself to receive. You practiced gratitude. You changed the inner image. You practiced wealthy feeling. You began acting from the identity you wish to embody. You learned to trust timing. You released unnecessary struggle. You examined doubt. You cleared emotional blocks. You crossed the invisible bridge. You learned the balance of giving and receiving. You recognized that the deepest thing you seek through money is often a feeling you can begin cultivating now. You practiced decree. You prepared for the great shift, and you learned to protect what has been planted. Now, everything becomes simple. You do not need 50 practices tomorrow. You need remembrance. Remember who you are becoming. Remember the word you have chosen. Remember that present conditions are not permanent decrees. Remember that money is a tool. Remember that your worth is deeper than money. Remember that right action matters. Remember that divine intelligence can guide practical action. Remember that abundance without wisdom is not complete prosperity. Remember that prosperity without peace is not complete prosperity. Remember that receiving without gratitude is not complete prosperity. Remember that giving without discernment is not complete prosperity. You are learning wholeness. Now take a slow breath. Imagine gathering every useful idea from this meditation into one quiet center within you, not thousands of words. One knowing, I am willing to live in divine order. Let that become the seed. Divine order in thought, divine order in speech, divine order in spending, divine order in receiving, divine order in earning, divine order in saving, divine order in giving, divine order in work, divine order in rest, divine order in timing, divine order in relationships, divine order in opportunity. Now breathe again and say, I seal this new consciousness in peace. I release fear. I release shame. I release the old identity of struggle. I welcome right prosperity. I welcome wise supply. I welcome right action. I welcome useful ideas. I welcome ethical wealth. I welcome good through expected and unexpected channels. I am guided. I am receptive. I am prepared. I am grateful. I am peaceful. I am becoming a wise steward of increasing abundance. Now release it. You do not need to hold the meditation mentally all night. You do not need to remember every line. Rest. Your conscious work is complete for tonight. Tomorrow, begin simply. Before the phone, I am guided. During the day, what consciousness am I in? Before sleep, gratitude. Image, feeling, decree, release. Continue for 21 nights if that commitment serves you. Not because missing one night creates a curse. Not because a number controls the universe. But because repetition gives a new consciousness time to become stable. And when the new consciousness becomes stable, your decisions become more stable. Your language becomes more stable. Your emotions become more stable. Your habits become more stable. Your actions become more stable. And over time, stable changes create different circumstances. This is the practical miracle. A changed inner life creates a changed way of meeting the outer world. Now, if you want to mark your commitment, write in the comments, I speak the word of faith, and divine order now opens my way. Let this be your declaration, not for performance, for remembrance. When you write it, know what it means. I will not let fear choose every word. I will not let one setback become a prophecy. I will not let my past define my entire future. I will not worship scarcity. I will not confuse struggle with worthiness. I will not reject right good out of guilt. I will not force when guidance is asking me to listen. I will not collapse because one door closes. I will trust that another door can exist. I will think. I will pray. I will listen. I will act. I will learn. I will receive. I will give. I will rest. I will continue. Now let the final decree be simple. I am guided by divine intelligence. My words are filled with power and peace. Divine order now governs every part of my financial life. I speak only the word of faith, abundance, wisdom, and right action. The way is made clear before me. I welcome prosperity through right and honorable channels. I receive good with gratitude. I use good with wisdom. I share good with love. I release all fear concerning tomorrow. I rest in trust. This night is complete. Tomorrow begins in divine order. And now, beloved listener, there is nothing more you need to do. Let your body become heavy. Let your breathing become soft. Let the day fade away. Whatever remains unresolved can wait until morning. You have planted enough for tonight. The seed does not need more argument. It needs rest. You do not need another strategy. You need sleep. You do not need to force another affirmation. Let the last words simply be, I am guided. I am blessed. I am provided with the next right step. Divine order is working. The way is opening. All is well for this moment. Rest. Rest deeply. Let the mind become quiet. Let the heart become peaceful. Let your hands open. Let your jaw soften. Let every financial fear you carried into this night lose some of its weight. Tomorrow is not required to repeat yesterday. Your next chapter does not have to resemble your last chapter. You are allowed to learn. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to prosper. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to live with greater ease. You are allowed to become wiser. You are allowed to become wealthier in consciousness before the outer numbers fully change. And when the outer numbers do change, you will be more prepared to receive them peacefully. You will not worship them. You will not fear them. You will direct them. You will bless them. You will use them. You will let them serve life. This is prosperity in divine order. So sleep now. Sleep without rehearsing lack. Sleep without arguing with tomorrow. Sleep without forcing the future. Sleep knowing that the next right step can be shown when you need it. Sleep knowing that one night of peace is already a blessing. Sleep knowing that gratitude has begun its work. Sleep knowing that your old language is losing authority. Sleep knowing that a new inner image is forming. Sleep knowing that you are learning to receive. Sleep knowing that your true security is deeper than a number. Sleep knowing that your worth cannot be reduced by a temporary financial condition. Sleep knowing that you are more than the story you have told about money. Sleep knowing that divine intelligence is available to you. You are guided. You are supported. You are becoming clear. You are becoming peaceful. You are becoming prepared. You are becoming receptive. You are becoming prosperous in consciousness. And as consciousness changes, life can change with it. Rest now. No more effort. No more striving. No more checking. No more forcing. Tonight is complete. The seed is planted. The word is spoken. The heart is quiet. The way is open. Sleep peacefully. Dream abundantly. Wake with clarity. Walk in divine order. And when morning comes, remember, your first wealth is consciousness. Your first prosperity is peace. Your first power is the word you choose. Your first action is the next right step. Speak the word of faith. Follow the guidance. Honor the process. And let your life unfold from there. It is enough. Rest now. All is well.